Okay, I'm going to do another live stream. Seem to be doing a few in quick succession. Start off by mentioning what I'll be doing. So for about an hour, maybe less, maybe more, more inclined to do less. If I'm not feeling it, if it's just not quite clicking, or if no one turns up, I might just bail at that point. Inclined to go a little bit longer if there's some interaction going on, if we're having conversations, if someone comes up on panel or such, which hasn't happened so far. Otherwise, give or take, it'll be around about an hour. So what will be happening? Well, I've got around, well, more than a dozen articles prepared. I've read through most of them, I think. Some are not that interesting, some are. The first few are US politics based, and I may not necessarily focus on them too much unless someone particularly wants to talk about them. And then I've got several which are more culture wars based, which I'm finding interesting. I think they're quite interesting. So I'm going to go through at least a few of the articles. So yeah, I've got around 17 articles, somewhat prepared. I won't be going through all of them. I'll be going through, give or take, half a dozen at most, probably, maybe less. So we'll see. And also, the other thing to mention is that it's an open panel. So I've said this for the last half a dozen times or more. So it's a Streamyard panel. More than happy for someone to come on to talk if you want to talk about anything really. Not really fussed. Even if it's to troll a little bit, I'm not too bothered about that either, as long as it's not against YouTube terms of services. So yeah, we'll just see how that goes. I've not interacted with someone on the audio through one of these YouTube streams so far, so that might not go as planned, but I'm keen to find out. So if you want to be the first person on the panel, then let me know and I'll post a link in the chat. Other than that, if you're listening to this after the fact, which you're not, I get just a handful of views, 10, 15, quite often less. 15's almost my highest, I believe. So if you're an imaginary person that's listening to this after the fact, if you like, remember to press the like button, comment, subscribe, whatever else. I'm quite happy with the low level of interaction that I'm getting, or engagement rather, engagement that I'm getting. I'm quite happy with that. I've been thinking for quite some time, why do I want to do streams? Why do I want to have a YouTube channel? What is it within me that is causing this itch? And I think the answer is I want a little bit of intellectual stimulation, and I want a little bit of interaction with some human beings. I'd like to be able to flex my conversational skills, which have not been stretched much at all over the last few years, that kind of thing. So I'm really doing this for me. I'm not doing it for you. I'm not doing it to become a popular YouTuber, or to become to have a community, anything like that. That those aren't the reasons why I'm doing this. I think it's sometimes it's quite hard to know what our true desires are, and I have been thinking about this for some time. I think at the end of the day, I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this so that I've got an excuse to read through some articles. I've got an excuse to discuss some topics, and not only an excuse to. Oh, hang on. Not only an hang on. Not only an excuse to, but an opportunity to. Not that, I mean, like I've said, some of these articles aren't that interesting. I don't have a burning desire to discuss the topic of the White House having deep concerns over the WHO report about China. I don't have a burning desire to do that, to discuss that topic specifically, but I do have a somewhat burning desire to have some intellectual conversations about some current affairs at some stage, and I don't think there's too many opportunities to do that, not for me at least. So this is my opportunity. This is creating something, as I say, for myself. So if you don't like it, that's perfectly fine. I don't actually care. Anyway, having said that, I'm not trying to be a complete a-hole or completely rude or dismissive or such. I very much welcome interaction. It's just not looking to build like a successful community or that kind of thing. I think. Anyway, whatever. Let's go through the first article. Here it is. White House has deep concerns over the WHO, the World Health Organization, report on China and coronavirus. This is a nearly a week old. It's a few days old, this one. The Biden White House reportedly has deep concerns over a report from the World Health Organization that appeared to gloss over the Chinese origins of the novel coronavirus, and which now seems to have been completed without the necessary raw data from Chinese officials. In a statement late Saturday, the White House called on China to open its books and provide data on the first days of the coronavirus pandemic. The Biden administration raised concerns that surfaced in a New York Times report that Chinese scientists refused to give the WHO, World Health Organization, WHO, investigators any patient data. And they urged the WHO team to embrace the government's narrative about the source of the virus, including the unproven notion that it might have spread to China from abroad. Greetings and salutations, Paul. Thank you once more for joining me yet again. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Remember, it's an open panel. If you want to come up to talk, more than welcome to do at any stage, blah, blah, blah. Just let me know. So, yeah, this is the first article that I'm going through, Paul. The White House National Security Advisor said that it is imperative that the report be independent and free from alteration by the Chinese government. Okay, I'm not going to read through any more of that because it gets too dry to listen to. You know, it's too easy to zone out. But in essence, as far as I understand, this is a legitimate article, basically saying that the Biden presidency, the Biden administration, is deeply concerned currently about the World Health Organization and the World Health Organization's discussion and investigation of coronavirus. Seemingly, the Biden White House thinks that the WHO are covering China's arse. They're not being entirely truthful. And I find that interesting. I find that interesting because I was under the impression that the Biden government, you know, as a right winger, as a conservative, someone that's reading, being influenced by right wing media mostly, I'm being told that the Biden government is in cahoots with China to some extent. And I think there is evidence of that. I mean, there's certainly evidence in regards to the corruption relating to Hunter Biden, amongst other things, which I can't really think off the top of my head because I'm not smart enough. But yeah, I was led to believe, as someone that follows conservative media, that the Biden government was in cahoots with the Chinese government, whereas this article is saying that that may not be the case. This article is essentially saying that the Biden administration suspects that there's some shenanigans between the WHO, WHO, and China, and you know, it's saying that the Biden administration wants to investigate that further. They want to investigate the origins of the pandemic. So I find that interesting. That we're told on the right one thing. This seems to be contrary to the narrative that Biden is in cahoots with China. That's my take on it. So I just thought that was a little bit interesting. Going to move on to the next article, unless, of course, Paul or anyone else wants to discuss that topic further. You're more than welcome to, either in chat or on panel. Blah, blah, blah. Otherwise, I shall move on. So this one says, Joe Biden excuses the Uyghur genocide as just a Chinese cultural norm. So yeah, I mean, this is Biden discussing China again. He did a speech, and it's It's on here. I'm not going to play it though. And one of the topics that came up in the I had to laugh at Paul's comment. The only who I trust has Pete Townsend. Are you sure you should be trusting Pete Townsend? He's got a reputation, hasn't he? Oh yeah, I think Pete Townsend was caught with CP, so not very nice things. But he argued that he was researching for a documentary, something like that. Wasn't he essentially given a bit of a pass? He wasn't really cancelled. Am I right on that, Paul? Could be wrong. So yeah, Joe Biden, basically in this speech, he's talking about China, and he's been talking about China quite a bit since he's become the new United States president. And he was asked about China or Xi Jinping's genocide of the Uyghurs being, if I get this correct, I've read into the Uyghurs. I've read several articles about their situation, but I do forget, of course. But essentially, they're is it fair to call them a nationality? But they're a nationality which is a certain region within China, and they're predominantly Muslim. I believe one particular sect, if I'm using the right term, sect of the Muslim religion, and essentially they're being treated incredibly badly by the Chinese. There's millions of them in re-education camps. That's how the Chinese government describe these camps, as re-education camps. But essentially they are concentration camps for all intents and purposes. As you look at them, concentration camps like the Holocaust. I've seen some videos in regards to this, and I've seen some of the released prisoners or released slaves, and they can't walk. They don't have any muscle mass at all. They're just incredibly weak. Let's see if I can show you what I'm talking about. Released Uyghurs. I'm going to spell it wrong even. So, Paul, hopefully you're aware of the Uyghur situation. More people should be aware of the Uyghurs. I mean, there is a video of Uyghurs in a train yard, and there's hundreds of them. There's hundreds of them. Essentially, they're chained. They are literally chained, and let's see if we can show you that one. They're literally chained, and they're being shepherded onto a train. And it looks again very much like the concentration camps. And the reports, I mean, they could be right, they could be wrong, but the reports that I've read state that I want to play the video if it's going to let me. The reports state that these Uyghurs are being shuttled to factories to do forced labor. And I think there's been suggestions that those factories include making things for Apple. I could have that bit wrong. I think other technology companies, but yeah, forced labor camps. That is seemingly what is happening within China. Biden was asked about that, as this article here tells us. Someone asked him, "Hey, Biden, Joe, you're such a good guy, you're such a Democrat. We know that you're all about unity. We know that you're all about equality and removing the ills of the world, removing systemic racism and all of this. What's your thoughts on the Uyghur situation? What are your thoughts on essentially the genocide and forced slavery, forced labor camps that's occurring in China?" And what was Joe Biden's response? Joe Biden's response was, is this it here? Okay, this is it. The central principle of Xi Jinping is that there must be a united, tightening control in China, and he uses his rationale for the things he does based on that. I point out to him, no American president can be sustained as a president if he doesn't reflect the values of the United States. And so the idea that I'm not going to speak out against what he's doing in Hong Kong, what he's doing with the Uyghurs in Western mountains of China and Taiwan, trying to end the one China policy by making it forceful, I say, by he gets it. Okay, well, that was a load of garbage, but he goes on to say that culturally there are different norms in each country and their leaders are expected to follow. So so yeah, I mean, I've kind of garbled that myself, but basically Joe Biden's response when asked about the Uyghur situation in China, his response is, well, hey, you know, different countries have different cultures, different norms. They get to decide their own standards. And that's, I mean, that's a very incredibly weak response. In my thoughts, very weak. I mean, it's completely avoiding the subject, isn't it? It's turning a complete blind eye to the subject. And I think it's fair to say that, you know, I'll say all countries have their dark side. You know, all governments have their dark side. There's going to be, just inevitably, if you look at the course of history, it seems to be a part of human nature, definitely is, that governments are going to do some atrocities or such, as Paul says, to some of their citizens. It seems kind of inevitable. Again, if you look back on history and if it's happened in 99% of cases, then I think you can be confident that it's going to continue to occur. So no country is purely innocent, but this is affecting millions of Uyghurs. Yeah, it's affecting millions of Uyghurs. So, oh, this video doesn't want to work, so I'll just close that. Yes, so it's not a small thing, and it's a very weak response. Oh yeah, just let him get away with it. Just let him carry on. Oh yeah, okay. China's what are they doing? They're just imprisoning a few million people. What's the big deal? You know, they're just putting them in forced concentration camps and making them do labor for Apple and whoever else. It's all right. It's their cultural norm. That's what they do over there. Just leave them alone. I mean, isn't it hypocritical as well? I'll say this. Yeah, Paul says different strokes for different folks. Yeah, mate. Hey, man, why are you giving China a hard time? All they're doing is imprisoning a few million Muslims. What's the problem? Just let them be. But isn't that like totally hypocritical? Because didn't the United States invade? I mean, I think I could say several countries. But you know, what springs to mind is Iraq. And there's been different reasons for invading Iraq, but at the same time, one of the major reasons for invading Iraq was to get rid of Saddam Hussein, was to get rid of his dictatorship and to install democratic democracy. Am I right in that? I could have that wrong, but that's basically, as far as I understand, I think it's fairly accurate to say that United States definitely has, in the course of history, recent history, decided to topple governments and install powers that they feel appropriate. And what's my point there? My point is, well, the United States has shown time and time again, I believe, from what I read and forget, that they're more than willing to topple. They're more than willing to meddle in other countries, in other nations, in other cultures. More than willing to do that. Just in this one, he doesn't want to get involved. I can't necessarily blame him for not wanting to get involved. I don't know what the consequences of getting involved would be. Maybe the consequences of getting involved with China in an aggressive fashion would be World War III. I mean, that's what we were told with Trumpy. You know, when Trumpy was saying, okay, right, we're going to ramp up the tariffs on the China's economy on all imports from China, or certain types of imports. We're going to ramp up the the taxes that they have to pay. there's effectively going to be a tax war, there's a media panic. Okay, well, don't do that, Trump. We're going to be in World War III. China will not stand for that. Thankfully, well, I'll say this. Thankfully, World War III hasn't happened, but maybe it has. Maybe it has. It's just continued in an economic or intelligence capacity. Anyway, I've kind of rambled there, but I think it's kind of important to know that Joe Biden is not going to be doing anything about the Uyghur situation. In this regard, he's turning a blind eye to China's naughtiness. There's a much better word for that, which I can't think of. But in the situation of the WHO and the coronavirus, apparently Joe Biden is being strong in that regard. He wants to investigate that further. I don't know. Anyway, moving on. Before I do move on, excuse me, let me ask Paul, how are you? How are you today? How is the state of Illinois? Paul says, I thought white supremacy was the omnipresent bogeyman, but it's China, the dragon. I'm not entirely sure what your point is there, Paul. I'm not sure what point you are making. It could be that, normally, yeah, seemingly the target of a lot of aggression from the United States Democrat politicians as well as media representatives does seem to be whites or whites, and we're told time and time again that white supremacy is rampant, systemic racism. Whites are all evil. We're told this. Yeah, they're the boogeyman. They're the omnipresent boogeyman. So it's not. So I think you may be making the point that they don't normally want to attack China because they're not white in China. In China, it's okay to be almost 100% Chinese. The nation, the demographics of the nation, is a very low percentage of non-Chinese within the country. Blacks are treated very, very poorly. At the beginning of COVID, they were refused entry. The blacks were blamed by the Chinese, I believe, allegedly, in all of this. But that's what I was reading. They were blamed for COVID by the Chinese. They were refused entry into hotels. They weren't allowed to go into restaurants, things like this. They were physically abused, spat on. So there's a lot of, apparently, from what I've read, there's a lot of racism against blacks in China. Yeah, but anyway, I definitely agree that the whites are typically the boogeymen. So let's have a look at this article. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, unless, of course, Paul wishes to, or anyone else. Violence erupts at an anti-vax protest as COVID deniers descend on cities across Australia ahead of vaccine rollouts. So apparently there was several marches in the major cities in Australia, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, called Millions March Against Mandatory COVID Vaccinations. And there were some violent clashes with police. To be honest with you, I'm not that interested in this subject, which is a little bit ironic as to why I choose to bring it up. I guess it's kind of interesting, but it's all a little bit silly. I'm a little bit surprised. Are the anti-vaxxers? I'm assuming that anti-vaxxers in Australia and elsewhere, I'm assuming that they are not leftists. My belief is that the leftists are generally pro-vaccination, and it's more the conservatives that are anti-vaccination, anti-vax. I am a little bit surprised. If that is correct, then I am surprised that the conservatives felt such a need to protest against mandatory vaccinations when Australia does not have mandatory vaccinations. There's no mandatory vaccination in Australia. In fact, Scott Morrison, the president, the prime minister rather, a couple of months back, when it became clear that there will be a vaccination, just after the announcement that Pfizer had a vaccination, all of this, Scott Morrison said, look, there's no need to rush. You know, we're not in a hurry. Could be problems with the vaccine. So, you know, I think his phrase was, you don't rush towards failure. And I appreciate that. From my point of view, from what I've read, from what I've seen, from the reports that multiple people worldwide have died shortly after taking one of the several vaccines that are out there, there's been dozens upon dozens of cases of people dying. And I believe that it is typical that someone will get ill from having one of the vaccines, one of several vaccines. If you have the vaccine, even if you don't die, I believe there's a very high chance that you will experience illness for a period of time. Could be a few days, could be a couple of weeks. So to me, I'm like, you know what? I'm not in a rush to take that. I don't really feel like running a high risk of being ill or dying. Don't really feel like doing that. Thanks very much. And I can't, at this stage, I can't have any real faith that the vaccines, any of them in particular, are going to be that effective. I would guess that they're more effective than not having a vaccine should you not die. But there's no, I mean, is it going to surprise you, Paul, or anybody else, if in a few months' time, or even less than that, they say, oh, you know what, these vaccines no longer work on the current strains of COVID. The COVID has continued to mutate. There are other strains that are prevalent in society in America and Australia, wherever it happens to be, and so that vaccine that you got injected with 2 months ago, forget about that. It's kind of useless now. You're going to need another one. I mean, that's what I would be thinking. So I'm not in any rush to get a vaccination for COVID. Not saying that I won't do it. It's just I'm not in a rush to. Australia, there's just not that many cases. There's basically no cases, and then every now and then a cluster pops up. A cluster has popped up several times in different major Australian cities, and then each time, I think it's fair to say that the government, the state representatives have reacted very quickly and very harshly. So they've gone into flash lockdowns for a week or 2 weeks just on the basis of 1 or 2 cases. So to me, I don't think that COVID is going to affect me as an Australian. The chances of it affecting me is pretty slim. Not impossible, but pretty slim. So why would I risk taking a vaccine at the risk of falling ill for a week or 2, or even dying, having a poor reaction to it and dying? There's just no point. So back to this article, it just confuses me a little bit that there's been these protests across Australia against mandatory vaccinations, which would make sense to me if there were mandatory vaccinations in Australia, but there aren't. So why are they protesting something which isn't in existence? I mean, I can only think that they're protesting something that isn't in existence because they feel that it may become a thing, and they could be right. Maybe it will become a thing, but you know, I don't know. I just wouldn't protest until the issue at hand was more imminent, would be my feeling. And another thing to comment is this is a lot of police officers. That's a stack load of police officers. So the police have responded to these protests with force. I mean, as I look at a picture here with someone being restrained by at least 3 police officers, you know, I mean, that's, you know, that's a pretty harsh way to restrain someone, hold their head against the ground, even though it is grass. But even so, it's pretty unpleasant. Seems a little bit unnecessary in all case. We have a new person, a new guest, Filoso Filero. Hello, Filoso Filero. And Filoso Filero says, "I poop in buckets." Which is great. Thank you for your contribution there, Filoso. Buckets would be a good place to poop, better than an open ground. Better than the ground. I mean, it's not the worst place to poop. If you had to poop, if you could choose where to poop, I personally would choose to poop in a toilet. In a modern Western toilet where you got a bit of plumbing, you got water, you got a flush. I think that's probably the most comfortable and the most sanitary way to poop. However, if I didn't have access to a toilet, a modern toilet, I too would probably poop in a bucket. Where else would you poop? Better than pooping into your hands, or a bottle. Better than that. So yeah. Filoso, we could be quite like-minded. Filoso goes on, "I hate humanity and I have no family or friends, so I'm kind of glad China is gonna enslave humanity." Okay, so you feel that China will enslave humanity. I believe the word is enslave. I could be wrong. I don't mean to be a grammar Nazi, but I kind of am, so. You have no family or friends, so I'm kind of glad China is going to enslave humanity. Okay. I mean, if China does enslave humanity, that would also enslave yourself. I mean, do you want to be enslaved? I mean, if you do want to be enslaved, why would you want to be enslaved by China, of all organizations to be enslaved by? Anyway, so that's really this article. I'm just a little bit surprised why so many people felt the need to come out on a Saturday afternoon to protest mandatory vaccinations in a country that doesn't have mandatory vaccinations. I don't know. It's just a bit weird to me. I'm just going to go back to a couple of comments that Paul made. I asked Paul how he was doing, and he's let us know that he's doing exceedingly well. He went shopping for provisions to replenish his mozzarella sticks as well as his tomato soups. Did you also buy Cheez-Its, Paul? Because you cannot miss on all of the ingredients. Paul also says vaccines are obscene because they're made with an alien or strange cocktail of ingredients. So, Paul, you're an anti-vaxxer. Are you a general anti-vaxxer? Like, what I mean is, have you been an anti-vaxxer for some time prior to COVID? Are you against vaccinations of children for whatever children are vaccinated against? Polio, amongst other things. I'm not. I think, prior to COVID, putting COVID to one side, I think that vaccinations have, from what I've seen, from what I've read, vaccinations have protected millions upon millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people from a variety of different diseases, including polio. But having said that, I have seen some statistics which show that at the time that the vaccinations for these key diseases, and the one that I can only remember is polio, at the time that those vaccinations became available, those diseases had already declined significantly, or the frequency of those diseases had declined significantly already. So I do understand that there are some reasons to be an anti-vaxxer. I have a family friend who is who has polio. Has had polio his whole life, I think. So I kind of feel that it's best avoided if it can be avoided. Filoso has replied again. Okay, so I think he's talking about the pooping in buckets. No, it won't. I live off the grid, hence why I poop in buckets. Okay, you live off the grid. Is that genuine, or are you just lying? If that's genuine, that's very good. I'd be interested in which country you live off the grid. I think that's good. I think living off the grid is a good thing. I think, not that I know, and you know, you've got things like solar panels nowadays, and I'm a big Elon Musk fan. I follow, I read about Tesla, and I read about SpaceX. Tesla, they will be making vans at some stage. They will be making vans. Elon Musk has confirmed that recently, and they will. Even if you look at the Cybertruck, I don't know the technical terms correctly, but you're able to use these electric vehicles as a generator, as a battery backup. You can use it as a source of electricity. Maybe not a source. Maybe not as a source. You have to put the energy, the electricity into the Tesla. But once the electricity is in the Tesla, once the batteries are charged, you're able to plug items into the car somehow. I may have that slightly wrong, and use them. So one of the benefits of the Cybertruck is that for tradespeople, they won't need an external generator. They'll be able to use all of their power tools directly plugged it from the car. And so that type of technology, if you turn that into a van and you have similar, perhaps superior technology, then van life is going to become very easy, very simple, very practical for a lot of people within a decade, for sure. Within a decade, van life, you'll be able to buy a $40,000, $50,000 Tesla van, and you'll be able to put a mattress in it comfortably, very comfortably, and you'll be able to have heating. You'll be able to have a refrigerator. You'll have aircon, of course, blah blah blah, and then you'll be able to use Starlink, SpaceX's internet system, which is already available. It costs $500 for the satellite dish and other accessories, and then it costs $100 a month, which isn't cheap. That's not price competitive when compared to normal cable-based internet, but it is very cheap when compared to other satellite internet, and apparently it's very fast, and it will be improving significantly. So yeah, living off grid, as far as I understand, is very doable. Filoso says, I'm in Thunder Bay, Ontario. Shush, don't tell anyone. The lizard people are looking for me. I don't really know. I don't really understand Ontario. That doesn't mean anything to me. And I know it's a state, but to let you know, I'm not really aware of what what kind of state that would be. Paul Wright says Thunder Bay is a good song. Beware of shape-shifting reptilians, Sleestack. So yeah, but please, Filoso. Look, Paul, don't scare Filoso. He's already worried about the lizard people. Don't scare him anymore. But Canada. Oh yeah, that would make sense. Ontario, Canada. Right. Okay. Okay. Cool. I still don't know about the region, but I guess it's very rural. Who's that comedian that I'm thinking of? I think he's Canadian and he lives off grid. Can't think of his name. Ontario, Canada. There's a guy, I can't remember his name. Damn it. All right, anyway. So Paul also says, yes, you read my mind. No, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but this I am skeptical because Bill Gates is pushing it. Yeah, there's a lot of negativity towards Bill Gates, a lot of skepticism about Bill Gates. I'm not fully aware of it, but I think he's discussed in the past that he believes that that there should be mass depopulation. Population of the world should decrease significantly by the billions, and he seems to be involved. Why is he involved in vaccinations? I mean, he was a technical guy. He was Microsoft, and apparently he just got lucky. Didn't somebody else do the code and he just bought the company, something like that? So there are people saying Elon Musk says that Bill Gates is a dummy. I'm not quite sure why he says that, but there are people that don't necessarily believe Bill Gates is this wonderful person that some people say he is. Yeah, so there's a lot of skepticism. Okay. Paul is continuing to scare Filoso. Paul is informing Filoso that the reptilians and the Sleestaks live in underground caves. So hopefully you don't have an underground cave on your land, Filoso. I presume you have your own land. I guess you have your own plot of land in the middle of, it's effectively a farm kind of thing. I'd be interested if you wanted to share. If you wanted to share more details on that. Filoso says, yeah, I signed up for Starlink beta program, but I applied too late for it. Oh, okay. That's a shame. But I guess you'll be getting that soon. I guess they'll be opening up things further, increasing the beta program or releasing it as a full product or a full service. I mean, SpaceX and Tesla, neither of them muck around, do they? I mean, they move pretty fucking fast. Every month, I think they're launching new satellites for the Starlink program. So it's improving. But I've seen at least one YouTube video from a user, and he said, "Oh, the setup just took a matter of minutes. You find a little plot on your land in your back garden, and you plug the dish in through an Ethernet cable. That's all you need. So I suppose it's going to need to be a waterproofed or protected Ethernet cable. You need to put it through some kind of piping or something, and then the satellite dish automatically changes direction and points to where it needs to point to. So that's all automated. It has motors within it. So you don't need to sit there fiddling around. You don't need to have any skilled installation experience or anything like that. And then the guy that I saw, the YouTube guy, said that the speeds were very good. You know, not mind blowing, but as good as you would get in the city, in most cities, on a standard internet plan. You know, so not as good as Google gigabit speeds or anything like that, but very, very reliable. Blah blah blah. Filoso, Bill Gates' wife gives me massive demonic vibes. Is it Melissa? I think it is Melissa Gates. Um, you should look up who Bill. Oh, Melinda Gates. That's it, Melinda Gates. I don't know anything about Melinda Gates other than she's married to Bill Gates, and they've known each other for a very long time, haven't they? Like it's not, you know, she's not the trophy wife. She's not the drop dead gorgeous ex model. You know, like Jeff Bezos, his wife. I think they may have got married. His this is Jeff Bezos's girlfriend. I mean, she's hot. She's completely hot. Oh, okay, Bill. Okay, you should look up who Bill Gates' dad is. he was a eugenics guy. So eugenics being planned. I don't really know how to describe eugenics, but planned progeny, purposefully having children for certain characteristics. So there's Bill Gates's girlfriend. I mean, she looks a little bit of like a transvestite in that picture, which you may appreciate, you may not. She looks a little sweeter there. So Bill Gates, Gates' dad, eugenics. How long have you been living on the land or off grid, Filoso? Is that been a recent thing? And how are you finding it? So let's have a look at this article. Filoso is educating us, educating me in regards to Bill Gates' father. Filoso's been living off grid for 6 years. So he's used to it by now. Not used to it enough to get a toilet with plumbing. Paul asked, "Do you watch the Australian Open? I used to root for Pat Rafter." No, I don't watch Australian Open. I don't watch any sport really, other than boxing. I started watching boxing in the last year, close to 2 years maybe. But yeah, I do know who Pat Rafter is. He's a hunk. Filoso says, "A little lonely, but hey, at least when Bill Gates and China take over the world, they're going to have a hard time finding me." Yeah, I appreciate that. A little lonely. But you've got the internet. I mean, you've got the internet. How good is your current internet if you're not on Starlink yet? But if you have the internet, for me personally, I interact with very few human beings in real life. So I speak with plenty of people over the phone, and other than that, I use YouTube really. I go to live streams. I'll mention one that the both of us go to. Me and Paul go to. So if you wanted to look that channel up at the end of the day, it's a nice, pleasant community. So if you do go there, do be nice and pleasant, which I believe you are being. Very slow, like 3 megabits a second. Yeah, that's pretty slow, isn't it? So you can't even. Oh, you're watching this live stream. Are you able to turn? I don't think you're able to disable the video. But yeah, I mean, if you do have decent enough internet, then and I'm not sure if 3 megabytes is decent enough, but you can interact with people online. For me, that alleviates loneliness. It gives me some interaction. Did Bill Gates' father run Planned Parenthood and teach his son to spread the gospel of eugenics? Okay, so mostly false, according to this. According to Snopes, we're looking at Snopes.com. So Snopes disagrees with you, Filoso. Bill Gates' father worked on the board of Planned Parenthood, but he did not support the idea of eugenics. He did not support the idea of eugenics, according to Snopes. What have you got to say about that, Filoso? Well, Filoso does say that you can watch YouTube videos on 144p, so very low resolution. But I mean, I think I would be fine with that. For me personally, I've never watched a Blu-ray movie. Actually, that's not quite true. I have downloaded, illegally downloaded some movies in Blu-ray quality. But other than that, I've never put a Blu-ray video into a Blu-ray video player. So I feel that I'm satisfied with DVD quality generally. You know, I play video games as well. That's my main pastime, I guess. And you know, I'm happy with my PlayStation 4. I don't feel the need for a PlayStation 5. My mobile phone costs 200 Australian dollars, 240 Australian dollars. I don't need the top of the range things. So I feel kind of lucky in that regard that I don't feel a strong need to have all of these top quality, super duper latest tech. You know, it is a trap. I've bought premium smartphones in the past for more than $1,000, being a waste of time, and I'm just not going to go down there again. Filoso says, of course, that's what they're going to say in regards to Snopes saying that Bill Gates' father is not supportive of eugenics. Snopes is the biggest disinformation shill site. I've never been to Snopes before, but yeah, I understand that it's generally viewed as such. Is that what is happening with Google nowadays? So if you look something up, you're only going to be presented with the left-wing viewpoint. Is that what's happening? Because it kind of looks like that. All of these articles here are calling this idea that Philosopher has brought up a bizarre conspiracy theory. Oh, but it's okay for Trump to be tied to eugenics. That's the Google's cool with that. Am I making a good point there? It does seem that way. Look up who runs Snopes. It's a husband and wife with a shady criminal past. I won't look that up now, and I will take your word for that. They do like zero research and say, oh yeah, that's fake, and never say why or how they came to that conclusion. Yeah. They just claim that something's debunked. I know it's terrible. The whole notion. I've not looked into any of these. What are they called? Fact checkers, and there are several different fact checking sites, I believe. I've never really looked into them. The whole notion of it just seems bullshit to me. Who are you to say what's true and what's not? You know, who are these people? Like you say, they could be criminals. Okay, yeah, okay. So Philosopher says yes, go to DuckDuckGo. So he's saying yes, you're right, white cis male. Google does only hand out left-wing articles. So let's go to DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo. And I have heard that DuckDuckGo has its critics as well. There are other search engines which are better than DuckDuckGo that are in regards to privacy. I think it's mostly about privacy, isn't it? What are we doing? Bill Gates' dad eugenics. Paul says, I'd like to buy a PlayStation 4. I used to own an Xbox One. I own a PlayStation 3. Yeah, Paul, I've very much liked. I've had a PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and I very much like the PlayStation 3. The PlayStation 4 is obviously better. It's worth getting, but the PlayStation 4 in Australia hasn't dropped in price. It still costs $400 or more than $400, and that's what it cost like 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago when I bought mine. It hasn't. Normally, the PlayStations will, drop down to around 200 Australian. It hasn't happened. So I would actually say, Paul, you could be worth waiting to buy the PlayStation 5, which is released, although it's in very, very short supply, because that China has a semiconductor manufacturing issue, which is affecting semiconductors in all technology. But yeah, I would wait for the PlayStation 5. The PlayStation 5 is fully compatible with all PlayStation 4 games. So you might be better off to buy a PlayStation 5. Filoso says, am I pronouncing your name right, Filoso? Tell me if I'm not. The search results in DuckDuckGo are a little more less censored. A little more less? That's a double negative there, mate. Well, actually, look, the second result here is exactly the same. Snopes. Okay, well, this one says Bill Gates is a eugenicist. So yeah, you could be right. This one says Bill Gates depopulation by vaccine. It's kind of interesting too. You see how it's less debunking results on DuckDuckGo? Yes. Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. That's a good way that's a fair way to describe it. On Google, they're all debunking results. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Which is a bit weird, isn't it? Because I wasn't asking for anything about debunking. That's not what I was asking Google to give me. I'm making a good point, aren't I? I said, tell me about Bill Gates's dad in regards to eugenics. And instead of telling me, it just said, oh, it's all a load of fucking rubbish. Well, I didn't ask you what your opinion is. Just tell me about what he said, Paul says, you're right, I will. Buy a PlayStation 5. Yeah, okay, yeah, good for you, mate. Yeah, I mean, it's fully, it plays every PlayStation 4 game, either by disc, and you'll be able to buy the discs for a few dollars secondhand, or digitally as well. So there's that. And also, Paul, if you're going to rush out to buy one, if you're going to buy one soon, over the next few months, then I'll mention that if you subscribe to PlayStation Plus, which costs give or take, I think $70 US a year, PlayStation Plus, it's a subscription. It will give you 20, I think it's 20, 21, 22 PlayStation 4 games that you'll have immediate access to. And they're very good games. They're really, several of them are the best games that were on PlayStation 4. You'll get them if you buy a PlayStation 5 and you get the PlayStation Plus subscription service in the next couple of months. They could end it at any stage, so that's what I'm saying, a couple of months. But you get this collection of games, PlayStation 4 games. Filoso, dude, you're preaching to the choir. I think you're referring to the PlayStation thing. Bill Gates is a eugenicist, as is his father, and international bioterrorist. November 28th, 2020. The nightmare of 2020 has all been orchestrated by the madman Bill Gates. He made his billions from Microsoft, but is now a self-proclaimed medical specialist of vaccines. But remember, this man has no training in health issues. None. I don't think that's necessarily true, because people are self-taught. People can teach themselves, and someone with the insane wealth of Bill Gates it would be very easy to surround himself by advisors, with advisors, surround himself with advisors. He could be educated. So I understand that he's not had formal education, but he could have had a lot of informal education. And I feel that I'm being hypocritical, because earlier this stream I was saying, he doesn't have that knowledge, but he could have that knowledge. I don't know. Now, most of our world consider him a type of savior, which to me is ludicrous and ironic, because the very virus Gates claims he will protect us from, he helped to create. Yeah. So I've seen um, an image in the Wuhan laboratory with Fauci and Obama in the Wuhan laboratory, from which some say is where COVID was developed. And I think Melinda Gates is there too. Yeah, this is the image. That's Melinda Gates, I think. There's Obama. There's Fauci. I think that's Melinda Gates. And they are visiting the NIH lab. Is that the Wuhan lab? I mean, I've seen the same image, and the article said it was in Wuhan. Okay, they're discussing Ebola research. Oh, so maybe I've seen fake news. Maybe. Oh, okay. Oh, seemingly I have. Fact check: this is not a Wuhan lab that Obama was visiting. Okay. According to these guys are saying that that image, which is not appearing here, this image isn't in Wuhan. Okay. Yes, Bill and Dr. Fauci give millions to the Wuhan lab. Yeah, that part has been proven. That I believe that's been proven. I believe that came out and was acknowledged. That I can't remember the number. I think it was like $4 million US was sent to the Wuhan lab. The Wuhan lab was funded by France, the French government, initially, and at a certain point, the French government removed themselves. They were like, "Oh, hang on, this doesn't seem to be a good idea." All of the different experiments, and let's not pretend that they do dodgy experiments in any developed nation. America is not going to be innocent. America, again, I was telling Paul, right, that I watched the Joe Rogan Bob Lazar interview for a second time yesterday or the day before, and he mentioned that within Area 51, within S4, that they were working on advanced. Actually, I may have this bit wrong. It was somewhere anyway, but no, I think I've got it right. They're in Area 51. They were working on advanced nuclear weapon technology, as well as chemical weapons. So, I mean, Bob Lazar could be wrong. He could be lying. But I think it's pretty reasonable to believe that most of the developed nations, US, UK, Russia, France, Germany, they're going to be developing. They're going to be working on things that they ought not be working on. Not just the Chinese. But if you ask Snopes, they'll say it's all fake. Yeah, so who do you believe then, Filoso? I mean, that's kind of one of these difficult things, isn't it? I mean, you believe one thing and then you're told, hang on, no, everything you've read is completely wrong. It's quite jarring. It's you go in one direction and then you're yanked in another direction, or you're told you're a complete fucking idiot for believing this bullshit in the first place. So don't you like mentally just throw your arms up and go, fucking hell, what's the point? I might as well just piss off to Ontario, Canada, and live in a field somewhere, poop in buckets. Paul says, everywhere you look, everywhere, you'll find the felonious fingerprints of New World Order globalists. Is that a rhetoric or a thought, Filoso, that you would agree with what Paul has said there? Would you be of a like mind in regards to the felonious fingerprints of New World Order globalists? Before I forget, Paul, you mentioned that you like dungeon crawler RPG games, and I think I'm right in saying they're about to relaunch a remake of Diablo 2. They're certainly working on Diablo 2. So Diablo 2, if you're not aware, that's generally considered the best dungeon crawler game. So they're about to launch a remake, I believe, on PC probably. Filoso, the biologist that worked on the Wuhan lab and said it came out of the lab, mysteriously died falling out a window. Yeah, wasn't it a young lady, a youngish Chinese lab assistant? Yeah, disappeared. Disappeared. And they were searching for her for some time, apparently. And I think they were saying that, well, some people were saying that she became infected. She was the first to have become infected. A bat that was being experimented on pooped on her or peed on her, something like that, which could have been the cause of the spread from bats to humans. Yeah, that's one thing that I read. Filoso, they mock us so much. They mock us so much. It's actually quite funny. So you mean the left? You mean those in power? You mean left-wing media mocking us, mocking those with a conservative viewpoint? So what are you saying, Filoso? You're saying that this is in Wuhan lab? You're saying that they did go to Wuhan lab? Is that what you're saying? At this point, I've got to believe. I'm believing the debunker in this. I guess it's not necessarily that important. The important thing is involvement, not that they were literally there, but involvement. And it's been proven that money was sent by the Obama administration to the Wuhan lab, and Fauci was somewhat involved, wasn't he? Filoso, I don't know what to believe, but whatever the government is telling me, I don't believe. Yeah, I think that's a good approach. Yes. If you're able to, and I heard Scott Adams. I'll type this. If you guys don't know Scott Adams, then check him out. He has a YouTube channel, but he's the creator of Dilbert, the cartoon character. And he has a YouTube channel. He's pretty popular. He's very good to listen to. So he talks about US politics and culture war things. And he's an expert in hypnosis. He's an expert in persuasion. He's not a charlatan, from my point of view. He's a genuinely very intelligent person who's extremely astute. And he tries to teach his audience how to think. And one of the things that he said is something like, or one of his trains of thought that he kind of repeats several times is, if you can see that the government or the media lie to you, if you have seen that, then you just know that whatever they say, just to realize that the opposite is the truth. You know, if you know them to be liars, then carry on listening to them, because whatever they say, you're going to know, well, that is not the truth. The opposite is, if there is an opposite, will be the truth. Filoso says Paul is a smart man. I think, well, yeah, you're absolutely correct. Paul is a smart man. And I think you're referring to Paul's statement. Everywhere you look, everywhere you'll find the felonious fingerprints of NWO globalists. Yeah. I mean, it certainly, I've said this to Paul a few times. Some of the comments Paul makes, I've replied to by saying, that kind of sounds absurd, you know, conspiracy theorist-ish, but it's very easy to believe at the same time. I mean, from my point of view, my opinion at this stage is that those in power, governments, are the individuals, including the president, certainly including Biden, if you consider him to be a president, that they're merely puppets. They're merely Manchurian candidates, as Paul has mentioned previously, and they're controlled. They're controlled. They're pushed. They're pulled. They're on strings. They've got it. And who are they controlled by? Well, Paul is very confident he's got a good understanding of who are the controllers. I'm less confident that I have an understanding of who are the controllers, but kind of regardless, I mean, there is an elite. I suppose you could call them this, you can call them that, you can accuse some people of being the true elite, and maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong, but ultimately there's definitely people that are controlling governments and key government personnel, and as such, their fingerprints are all over everything, really. Paul Wright, I like Baldur's Gate and Sacred and Gauntlet. I used to play Gauntlet at the arcade. I love Gauntlet. Baldur's Gate, you can get Baldur's Gate on your mobile phone, Paul. I don't know Sacred. China, Filoso says, China is a globalist experiment to see what's the best way to enslave humanity, and now they're ready to implement it to the world. I don't hate that theory. I don't hate that. I mean, it certainly it does seem, from the little I know about China, but it does seem that the Chinese government has such little respect for their citizens. At the beginning of the stream, I was talking about Joe Biden's response to a question he was asked in regards to the Uyghurs, the Uyghur genocide, and Joe Biden's response was basically, culturally, there are different norms in each country, and their leaders are expected to follow. So basically, different strokes for different folks, as Paul surmised. Yeah, I mean, the China. I'm going to say, in my opinion, allegedly, blah, 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 but I mean, they're pretty fucking evil how they treat their citizens and their animals. Don't go on to 4chan and look up China wreck. Just don't do it. I mean, they eat animals alive. I've seen them eat baby mice, baby rats too, I think. I've seen a clip of biting off the head of a pigeon, a live pigeon. Things like this, and the seafood, you know, there's many videos of them eating all kinds of eels live, centipedes live, this kind of thing. But the worst is dogs. I've seen multiple videos of them cooking dogs alive. Just terrible. And they seem like, there's one GIF I've seen of an attractive, fairly young, like in her mid-20s, 30s, in a very nice dress. She seemed a very well-to-do lady. Bit of makeup, nice hairdo, whatever. Yeah. So middle class, essentially, a middle class Chinese lady with a very big smile on her face, and she's making a social media video with a nice big smile on your face, and nice enchanting smile. And in her hand, she has I can't think of the term, but a gas blower, a gas. What do you call it? Like what a welder would use. Right, you probably know what I'm talking about, but basically a gas gun, and she's using the gas gun, whatever it is, gas blower, in the face of a dog, a live dog, just burning the dog's face, the dog's head, whilst it's alive. And she's there just doing that, smiling. Blowtorch, yeah, that's it, a blowtorch, Philoso. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's just sick. I've seen a big pot. I've seen 2 or 3 videos of a big pot with 1 or more dogs in it, yelping whilst it's being cooked. There's a guy there with a big spoon. He's turning it in the pan. The dog is immobilized whilst its body is being cooked, and it's just yelping. It's alive. It's being cooked alive. This is disgusting. And so this is what China do. They, to me, from what I've seen, just really in the last few months, maybe the last 12 months, what I've seen multiple situations of the Chinese showing complete disregard to their citizens and their animals, and including their pets, murdering their pets at the beginning of COVID. Just beating them over the head, beating the dogs over the head. So yeah, I don't know. What's my point? They treat their citizens with such low respect that it does seem to be somewhat of an experiment. What can the government get away with? How little benefits can they provide? How dominant can they be? So I don't fully disagree. It is a bit fear mongering. Your point of view, Philoso, is I'm probably not wording this correctly as well as I could, but it seems to be a bit hyperbolic, perhaps, a bit fear mongering, a little bit, but still believable. Hey Chris Kringle, hello. So welcome, and we've got a new guest. I don't know if Philoso has subscribed, but Philoso is a new guy. He lives in Ontario, Canada, and he lives off grid, and he's come in and he's let us know immediately. He was very keen to share the fact that he poops in buckets. So we've discussed that. We've discussed the hygiene, the sanitary of pooping in buckets, and he is entitled to poop in buckets. If that's his preference, then he is more than welcome to do that. There's nothing wrong with pooping in buckets, Chris. I mean, if you were thinking that he was in the wrong for pooping in buckets, well, he's not. All right, he is allowed to poop in buckets. And he's come in here and he started talking about pooping in buckets, and the conversation's moved on a little bit. Now we're talking about the Chinese cooking dogs whilst they're alive. Filoso, the Rockefeller family put Mao in power. Chris, is that something that you're familiar with, that notion that the Rockefeller family put Mao in power? Filoso also says, no one knows who the controllers are. Yes, the elites, the NWO. The people who you think are the controllers are just the puppets. Yeah, I mean, like, if you look at George Soros, who, you know, I'm not going to pretend that I'm particularly knowledgeable. I've just got the basic understanding. But, you know, a lot of people, I think I would be inclined to say that he's one of the puppet masters, but some people say no, he's not. He's if you know about them, then they are not the puppet masters. They are not the true elites if you're aware of them. You know, they're probably the dispendables to some extent. You know, like the Ghislaine Maxwell's. Um, they appear to be elites. They appear to be groomed and given passes by the CIA, the MI6, and Mossad, and whomever else. But no, they're the puppets themselves. Paul says, I have an aversion to Chinese food. So do I, Paul. Chinese food, I mean, some of it is wonderful. Some of it is really good, but a lot of it is very ordinary. And why would you eat Chinese food when you can eat Indian food or Thai food? I'm not that familiar with Vietnamese food. I have had Vietnamese, and that's also very nice, although a little bit too healthy for me. I do like my fattening, carcinogenic sauces and such. Vietnamese food, as far as I understand, a little bit more vegetable based. Paul says, where's Peter protesting? China. Yeah, you're right. I don't know. Do they protest? I mean, I presume you're right, Paul. I presume they don't. Filoso says, I've been sub to you for a few months now. Oh, have you, Filoso? That's interesting. Oh, that's very interesting. Okay. Good to know. That's jolly interesting. But you've never participated in a live stream or left a comment? Maybe you have left a comment in the past. I don't know. Can't remember. Why am I looking at Total Tools? Chris, how are you doing? If you're still here, you've gone a little quiet. I started telling him about the poop buckets, and Chris has gone quiet all of a sudden. I don't know why. Filoso, I love Chinese food. You just got to go to a good restaurant. There are some Chinaman that cut hella corners. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that, Filoso. There's going to be good restaurants and bad restaurants for sure. I love lemon chicken. It's kind of crappy bad food, but it's very tasty. But also, you guys, if you have you heard of China gutter oil? Have you heard of China gutter oil? If you want to vomit, if you want to induce vomiting, then watch a YouTube video on China gutter oil. In essence, what they do is, and this is a fairly widespread, long-standing practice. It's a thing, and it has been a thing for a while. I don't know why my internet doesn't want to work right now, but essentially what they do is they go to a manhole in the street or the side of the gutter, side of the road, the gutter, and they open up the manhole and they put down a long sieve, not a sieve, what am I talking about? A ladle, essentially a ladle. They dip a ladle into the sewer, and then they pull out what they pull out from the sewer in Shenzhen, China. Look, she's removing the manhole. Oh my god, there's the ladle. Oh my god. She's putting in her poop bucket. Oh my God. And then um, they heat it. They cook it, I guess. Can you believe that? It's terrible. And they use that, I believe, if I understand correctly. I have watched this documentary. Um, they use it as oil, as cooking oil. That's where they source the cooking oil. And we've seen other clips of the Chinese deboning chicken with their teeth. Yeah, that was Feloso. Yeah, that was her poop bucket. That was her family's poop bucket. That's what she was using. Deboning chicken with teeth. Oh, this is Thai. This is Thai people. Oh no, this one's in China. But there is a video clip of people doing this. That workers working in a processing plant, and they got a big bundle of like chicken feet or chicken wings, maybe, and chicken feet. Video shows Thai factory workers deboning chicken feet with their mouths. It's been very slow, but this is the thing. This happened in Thailand, but it's also happened in China as well. Paul asks, I want to try Australian meat pies. Are they good? Yes, they are good, Paul. You can go to the supermarket and you can buy, there's probably like a dozen different brands of pies you can buy. And Sergeant's is probably one of the lower cost ones. It's a proper brand name, so they're not the super cheapy ones, but the lower cost, and they'll be fairly cheap meat in it, but they'll still be good. They'll be good enough. If you get more premium ones, they're beautiful. Some of them are really beautiful, and there's a chain. It used to just be the one restaurant called Harry's Will de Calf. Okay, this is good quality info I'm giving you now. Harry's Cafe de Wills, and it's a little trailer, and there's a few of them now. It used to just be the one in Woolloomooloo, I believe, Woolloomooloo, which is in Sydney. And why? They do pies. Well, now they do other things, but they used to only be pies. And just here, you can see on the right-hand side, you can see there's meat pie, and then on top of that, you have mashed potato. Oh, here we go. You have mashed potato, then you have mushy peas, and then you have gravy. I mean, mind blown, right? You got meat pie, mashed potatoes, mushy peas, and gravy on a pie. I mean, that is just fucking incredible. And they have other very nice pies too. So yeah, if you want to, if you do come to Australia, Paul, or if you come to Sydney, I believe they're only in Sydney. But like I say, it used to just be the one store. Oh, they've served customers for over 80 years. Stores. It's not doing good. It's not really working. But yeah, if you're in Sydney, I don't know if they're outside of Sydney. Oh, here we go. Yeah, these are all Sydney. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I used to go to the Woolloomooloo one, and I've been to another one too, I think Tempe. But if you come to Sydney, oh, that's actually not in Sydney. Yeah, go to Cafe de Wheels, Harry's Cafe de Wheels. Filoso, or that Australian veggie spread, Vegemite is what you're referring to there, Filoso. Vegemite, which is a similar consistency to Marmite, which is English, but it is a very different flavor, and both are an acquired taste. Nobody likes Vegemite the first time they have it, nobody, but you just get used to it and you learn to love it, and it's great. It's great. It's very savory. It's very salty, I think they describe it as being. And yeah, it just tastes great every single time. I'm more of a peanut butter man myself, as my waist will attest, but Vegemite is a great second alternative. Filoso says they, I believe the Chinese, also use rotten meat and bones and make oil from that. Yeah. Paul says, in regards to the Chinese gutter oil, that's repulsive. I have nothing in common with them, losing their dignity stroke humanity. Yeah, I agree. There's such little dignity in living that way. And you know, there are other videos of in China of extremely shoddy workmanship, you know, buildings built out of bricks that crumble in your hand. They look like bricks. They've, you know, I'm stupid, so I'll say this wrong, but they've got that orange veneer on the outside, like a clay brick. But then just within the brick, it's just mud. It's just dirt, not even mud. It's just dirt. So there are businesses that make these shoddy building products, and they go ahead and they build apartment blocks using these shoddy building products. There's bricks made out of corn on the cob. Eaten corn on the cob, the husk of the corn is in the inside of bricks that are used to build houses and apartment blocks. I mean, what is that? That is just such. I mean, it's evil. These businesses that do that, knowingly that they're endangering the lives of whoever lives in these buildings or whoever happens to be walking past them, and they you know, they create these businesses based on such shoddy practices. It's evil. Filoso says the China is a decent race. They're hardworking and keep to themselves and don't really trouble anyone. It's the government that's a piece of shit. Filoso, I was, up until about a year ago, I had very favorable thoughts towards the Chinese from a point of ignorance. Very favorable views on the Chinese. Where I live in Sydney, my local town, which I don't go to that often at all, but the local shopping center, I used to go there, is, I'll say, overrun with Chinese, and it's a well-known fact. It's not. I'm not being hyperbolic. It's a slight exaggeration, but not a huge exaggeration. Australia is known, and some suburbs of some cities in particular are known for having a very high Chinese population. The costs of housing is extremely high. One of the major reasons for that is Chinese people keep buying property, which puts up the costs of property and also rental prices. So there are some suburbs in Sydney that are dominated by different races. Like there's a suburb dominated that has got a very high population of Korean people, Campsie in Sydney. There's others which are very high Lebanese population, Middle Eastern Muslims. Lakemba is one, and there's a few. Did I say cities? There are towns, or yeah, I mean they're almost cities that are dominated by the Chinese. And my feeling has been, well, they just look after themselves. They're generally, as far as I understood, they mind their own business. They're law abiding. They don't cause trouble towards their neighbors. They're not the ones that are dumping rubbish. They're not the ones that are causing a nuisance or causing too much noise. They're generally very well behaved. But having seen what I've seen on the internet over the last year about China, it's pretty hard to hold that view. Hello, Garrett. So welcome. If you do like the conversation, then like, subscribe, and all of that. It's kind of political conversation in nature, Garrett. We're talking, but not entirely. You see on the screen Vegemite. We're looking at Vegemite. We just looked at Harry's After Wheels. So it's not entirely politics based. But we've also been talking about poop buckets and gutter oil made in China, and we have nice conversations about eating or cooking live dogs. So we've got a variety of different topics going on to form this melting pot that we formed here. And if you want to contribute to that, you're more than welcome to. So feel free, feel comfortable to contribute. Filoso says, I saw a show, I think it's called Hard Copy, where some lady killed some guy in Australia and made meat pies out of him. Yeah, that kind of rings a bell, to be honest. And I think Hard Copy is the title of the show that you're referring to. That rings a bell. Paul says, I made something similar minus the mushy peas. I made mine with beef stew. Yes, Paul, that is the way to do it. Beef stew in the pie. Do that. But yeah, I mean, the next time you do that, put some mashed potato on top of it and put some mushy peas on top of it. I say that I've not done that myself. I've only had that from Harry Cafe de Wheels. But yeah, that's what I should do. I should definitely put mashed potato and mushy peas on top of my next pie. So I think I might wrap things up. I've gone for more than an hour and a half, which is great, and I've very much enjoyed it today. We've had Paul, who's great, and Paul's been turning up the last few live streams that I've done. Filoso is our new guest. I've made him a moderator because he's been informing us of a variety of different things. Chris Kringle, he said hello. But Chris, come on, mate. What are you doing? You normally contribute. What are you doing? What's wrong? How have you been doing, Chris? I did ask. And we've had Garrett say hello. So hopefully Garrett will come back next time. Hopefully Chris will too. Hopefully you all will. So I've very much enjoyed this. Thank you very much for joining me and for each of you contributing. Filoso says, well, it's 3 a.m. here, bro. That's Ontario. I'm a make like Black's belly button. I'm outie. Okay, got you. Peace, brother. Filoso, nice to meet you. Please come again. Paul says, I'm a loyal sycophant. Well, yes, you are a loyal sycophant, Paul. That's what we like about you. Your loyalty and your sycophantness. I very much appreciate both of those aspects. Truly. And your other aspects too. So there we go. So I'm gonna call things quits. What's the time for you, Paul? I'll tell you what the time is. It's nearly 2 a.m. for you, Paul. So hopefully you'll get some sleep. Well, you did mention that you're a night owl, so maybe you won't be heading to bed anytime soon. Paul asks, did you like the Harp Twins? I did listen to the Harp Twins, and I saw a video. I didn't watch the full video, which is a little bit naughty of me, but yeah, quite impressive actually. Quite impressive. I mean, they play the harp. There's two twins, and they play the harp, and it's very. Are they Scottish? Are they Scottish? It's very Gaelic music, isn't it? And that's not my thing. You know, I started at first. I was like, "Oh, okay, this is fine. This is Gaelic music." You know, and I'm not really that interested. But then I listened to it for a little bit longer, and it was, you know, exceptionally pretty music. Very, very beautiful music. So yeah, I could. I mean, still not quite my thing. You know, when I do listen to music, this is a bad practice, I'm sure, but I do tend to listen to fairly aggressive music. So I listen to a lot of hip hop, and if I'm not listening to hip hop, I'm listening to rock music generally. So, which is a bad practice, really. I say aggressive, and the hip hop is largely aggressive. You know, the lyrics are generally about gang banging and things like this. But I used to listen to like the likes of the Beatles and such, whereas a lot more pleasant, and perhaps a little bit more cerebral. I used to listen to a lot of REM and the Smiths too, and I kind of purposefully stopped listening to both of those bands, even though the REM was very much a favorite of mine. But I purposely stopped listening to them because the mood that it would create within myself was basically kind of depressed. So I prefer listening to more upbeat, aggressive music, which gives me energy. Even though it may have a bit of a negative vibe to that energy, a bit of an aggressive vibe, I prefer that. But I should probably start listening to the Beatles more, because that's generally more relaxed and pleasant. The Harp Twins are not Scottish; they're American from Chicago, Illinois. Oh, okay, cool. So you perhaps Chicago. Hang on, Chicago's in Illinois. So was I wrong? Was it when I said Minneapolis is in Illinois? Was I wrong? Oh, I was wrong. I was completely wrong. I'm a dumbass. Minneapolis is in Minnesota. Oh, okay, Chicago's in Illinois. Oh, the Prairie State. So Chicago, but you don't live in Chicago, I would imagine. As far as I understand, Chicago has some extremely rich areas, and then you've got extremely ghetto-ish areas. It's in Minnesota, sure. Okay, so you're in Illinois, but not in Chicago. Is that right? Paul says, I like REM and The Cure and Depeche Mode. I like REM. They were my favorite band, I guess, or, one of. I don't like The Cure, and I have respect for Depeche Mode. Depeche Mode would come up on Top of the Pops when I was young, and their songs were always interesting. I mean, their first songs that I recall, they were hitting pipes, industrial pipes in their videos. That's all I remember of them. And then they had the song My Personal Jesus, which I can't say I understand the lyrics. I can't say I would have listened to the lyrics, but the whole mood of it was, I don't know, set a mood, which was kind of unique and thoughtful. I'm lucky not to live in Chicago. Yes. I mean, I would think that, anyone would be extremely unlucky to live in the ghetto part of Chicago, where there are mass shootings every weekend, where you've got the mayor who, she's in the news a lot because she's having to talk about the last 10 people that died that weekend from shootings, and the other 30 shooting incidences that occurred, just like every other weekend. And also, even in the rich areas of Chicago, wouldn't that be kind of weird and unpleasant, be a part of the super rich? I like their lyrics, like "Everything Counts" and "Enjoy the Silence." I can remember "Enjoy the Silence." I can remember that. I can't remember "Everything Counts." But yeah, I definitely, Depeche Mode, they were quite unique, weren't they? I mean, I'm sure there were other industrial pop bands at the same time, but they had their own. Out of all of the popular mainstream bands, they had their own, I don't know, look and sound, I guess. I suppose that could be said of anyone. The Cure, I feel annoyed by The Cure. They did have a couple of, one in particular songs, do do do, which were kind of addictive to listen to. But I mean, that "Friday I'm in Love" song, it just makes me vomit. So The Cure, I kind of not quite my thing. All right, Paul. So again, I'm gonna wrap things up. So again, thanks for joining. I hope at least yourself has enjoyed at least part of this evening. Again, thanks very much for contributing. It's nice. It's been a nice conversation for me, at least, even though it's kind of talking to myself in a way. But I like In Excess and the Divinals. Yeah, In Excess. I had the album Kick, which was an amazing album. Had, would it been 5, 6, 7 very good songs on it, which I can't remember now. I Need You Tonight would be one. But yeah, that was In Excess. Kick was inarguably a very good album, and it looked like, I mean, what's his name, the lead singer? I can't remember his name, but he had such a good appearance. He was such a handsome devil. Why can't I remember his name? Oh, do you know the band, the Australian band Powderfinger? You know them? If you don't know them, check them out. They're a very good band. They retired. They retired some time ago. Yeah. Vulture Street is the album to look into. I think if it's a double album, I think it's a double album. Yes, get this one. If you like rock, I mean, this is I don't know how to describe it, but I don't know. It's like stadium rock, I think. I like Crowded House. Michael Hutchence, yeah. Good night, mate. Thanks for the entertainment. Michael Hutchence dated Kylie Minogue. Yes, they dated. I like Crowded House. Yes, Crowded House. They're from New Zealand, I believe. Yes, they're good. But yeah, check out Powderfinger. You'll like them. I mean, they're true artists. They're very nice songs. Yeah, so check them out. All right, mate. So yeah, thanks again. I'll leave you to it. You have a good one.